friends, my name is Tristan and I'm the owner and creative behind Month of May Quilting, and today I'm going to be showing you how I cut fabric for my quilts. So if you're looking to start getting into quilting, you want to know the best way to cut your yardage fabric to make fabric for your quilts based on the patterns, I'm going to show you how I do it. So there's a few ways that fabric is cut to get started with quilting, and so today I'm going to be showing you how to cut yardage. So if you go to a store and you buy fabric, you know, half a yard, 1 yard, 2 yards, things like that. There's other ways that they're cut in preparation for quilting, such as, you know, getting packs of fat quarters, packs of charm packs, jelly rolls, things like that, which are pre-cut packages of fabric. So, you know, like 2.5 inches by the width of fabric, or 10-inch squares or 5-inch squares that you buy pre-sorted and pre-cut. And then you can make those into quilts. But today I'm going to be showing you yardage, so just a full width of fabric, which is usually 42 inches. And I bought about a yard of what I'm using today, and today what I'm cutting for is a new quilt pattern that I'm working on and making the sample for it, so I'm really excited to show you guys as that comes along. But yeah, come with me and I'll show you how to cut fabric for your next quilt. Okay, so here's the fabric I'm going to be cutting today. It's this really pretty light or dark pink. So what I'm going to do is I have this sheet of fabric, and this is the selvage, which means that it has some type of print, and these little dots right here, that means it's the edge. And then this back side is also the selvage. It doesn't have that little print on there, but if you look closely, there's those little dots as well. So that means that both ends of the fabric are right here, and then it goes this way, folds in half, and then the back side is underneath. So I have this folded in half on the width of fabric, so the long way. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to fold this so it makes it easier to cut. So I'm going to match up this side, try and get these two lines as close as possible. And since I've already worked with this piece of fabric before and I've already cut on this line, it's already straight. I know it's straight because I cut it. And so if you're using a new piece of fabric that you haven't cut before, like this side, see how it's frayed? Because that's where it was just cut off the bolt, and I haven't worked with that yet, so I haven't cut this side. So if I'm going to start with this side, I'm just going to do a cut with my ruler on the frayed side, on the uneven side, just a straight cut down to make sure that it's even before I get started. But we don't have to worry about that today because I'm using a piece of fabric I've already worked with. So in order to make it easier to cut, I'm going to fold it in half again. Okay, and then I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to line it up so that these pieces are all lined up right here and it's super straight. Okay, so I'm going to start working on this side. So when I cut, I'm going to use this ruler because this ruler is longer than the piece of fabric I have, so that way I can just do one straight cut. It makes it super easy. And so I'm going to measure out how much I need. And for this specific project, I need a piece of fabric that is 15 inches by the width of fabric. Let me realign this. Sometimes you gotta double check it a few times as you get things scooched around to make sure that it is in fact all straight. So I kind of just hold my hand here to keep that straight and just flush it out like that with my hand. Super easy. Okay, so I want 15 inches by the width of fabric. And so, because it's not something that's easy like 4 inches, which I could just do on this ruler, because it's bigger, it's 15 inches, I'm going to need to put 2 rulers together to get me that measurement of 15 inches, which is not ideal, but I'm just working with the rulers I have. I don't want to buy a super big ruler, they're expensive, so I'm just working with what I have, and we're making it work. So, this is a 10-inch by 10-inch ruler, so here I have 10 inches. And then this is a 5-inch by 15-inch ruler. So here's my extra 5. So I have 10 plus 5 inches gives me 15 inches across, which is exactly what I want. I'm going to take one of the straight lines on my ruler here and make sure that it is straight along this bottom line. Okay, that's straight. And then I'm going to take this and make sure that it's straight, that this side is straight across this line. Okay, those look good to me. So now I'm going to hold it down, take my rotary cutter, unlock it, and I'm going to press down with this hand against the ruler to make sure it stays in place, while I press with this hand with my rotary cutter right down that line. I don't go and check to make sure it's all cut through. Lock my rotary cutter, super important. These things are super sharp, don't want to hurt yourself. And just like that, I have from my yardage a piece of fabric that is 15 inches by the width of fabric, which is exactly what I'm looking for. So I'm going to take my extra piece, put it over there. I'm not going to use that for a little while. And now I have my 15 inches by width of fabric. Perfect. Okay, so the pieces of fabric I need from this piece of fabric are 15 by 15 inch squares. So in the pattern it says cut a 15 inch by width of fabric piece, which I've done, and then underneath that it says subcut into 15 by 15 inch squares. So I'm going to do that next. So I take the 15 inches by width of fabric I just cut as the pattern told me to, and then it says from that piece subcut 15 inches by 15 inch pieces. So here's how we do that. I'm going to take my ruler, I'm going to line it up with this piece of printed selvage because I don't want to use that. That piece is printed. That's just to, remember what fabric it is, to give credit to the producer. So I'm going to cut that off because that's not plain fabric and I don't want that in my quilt. Okay, that piece I'm throwing away. Okay, so as you can see, because of the way I cut it, I have 2 layers of fabric here. So this is a fresh cut piece. As you saw, I just cut that, and then it folds on this end, goes underneath, so I have 2 layers of fabric. So to make this easier, I'm going to cut 2 pieces at a time. That way I have to do less cuts. I have to make less cuts, it goes faster, and the pieces I'm confident will be the exact same because I'm cutting the same size out of both of them. So even though it's folded, I know I need multiple pieces of it, so I'm just going to cut multiple layers of this fabric to get my pieces faster. So I need 15 inches, which I know I have here because I just cut that, and then I need it by 15 inches this way. So I'm doing the same thing. I'm lining up my 10-inch ruler, right pressed against it is my 5-inch ruler, and then I'm making sure that it's straight on this side, perfectly lined up, and straight on this side so that I get an even 15 by 15 inch square. Unlock my rotary cutter, press down, and cut my pieces again. Okay, let's see how we did. Perfect. Okay, so out of my yardage here, now I have 2 15 by 15 inch pieces that are perfect for my quilt. I'm going to use those. And I have this extra piece. I don't know how much is left. I'm sure I could do the math to figure it out if the full width of fabric is 42 inches, but I don't want to do that. So I'm just going to take a look at it, see if it's enough for me to cut another piece. Let's see. Okay, so I don't have 15 inches here, so that means I can't use this piece, but that's okay because it's a beautiful color and I will use it again for another project. Okay, so out of that piece of fabric I got the 2 squares I need using that method. That's my go-to on how to cut fabric from yardage when I need it to make quilts. It's the first step that I do when making a quilt, is cutting the fabric based on what the pattern tells me. Okay, so my pattern said I needed 2 15 by 15 inch pieces, which I have here. You just saw me cut. And so that is how I go ahead and cut my fabric from yardage, and then I just adjust that process based on the size of pieces I need. So if I need a 5 by 3 inch square, I'll just measure it differently with my little rulers, and I just use those, make sure the edges are lined up, and cut based on that. As you can see, my pieces do have some folded lines in them, some crinkles from when I brought them home, from how I folded them to store them before I started this project. It is highly recommended usually that you iron pieces if they have crinkles in it before you cut them from your yardage. Honestly, I don't do that very often. I don't really care. I think that it looks all together, put together. I think the quilt looks pretty much just the same whether I do it or not, unless there's like really, really dark indented lines. If they're really sturdy lines and they've been packed away for a while, I will go ahead and iron them before I cut, but for the most part I don't. I haven't really seen any negative impact from that, other people recommend you do. It's really up to your preference. I don't know, I've made enough quilts that I feel like I haven't seen a negative outcome in not doing that. So, but whatever works for you, go for it. I think it goes faster if I don't iron it, and I like to, pump quilts out. I like to make them quickly. There's just so many fun things to make, so I like to do them quickly, and it's worked for me so far. So I would love to hear your thoughts on that if you feel strongly one way or the other, but both ways work. It's up to you. So that is how I cut my fabric for my projects. I'm really excited to show you guys this project as I keep working on it. And then once it gets released, it's a fun little surprise with something happening for this quilt pattern. So definitely stay tuned into that. I hope that you learned a lot about how to quilt or how to cut your quilt fabric from yardage as you get started. It's usually the first step of the quilt making process, so it's very exciting. You're on your way. And yeah, I will be showing you more steps on how to quilt as we keep going. Yeah, I appreciate you tuning in. So feel free to subscribe if you want to keep learning about the steps to make your own quilt. And I would love to hear from you if this was helpful. So thank you all for tuning in. My name is Tristan with Month of May Quilting. I'm also on Instagram and YouTube and TikTok, as well as have a website if you are interested in buying any quilt patterns or inquiring about any custom work you'd like done. So thank you.